Hi, and welcome to Narcadilly Circus. I'm so glad that you could join me today. Well, this episode is entitled, Do Narcissists Really Sabotage Themselves? Usually only if someone is paying attention. Now, this might sound bizarre, but it's not. The narcissist does sabotage themselves, and in numerous ways. Other people, including myself, have witnessed this, and some of the most common ways that have been noticed are if you let them talk, and sometimes this talk turns into a grandstanding event, and this can last for hours. However, they will bury themselves, and by this I mean they essentially tell on themselves. Yes, the more they talk, the less they are able to control their ego. And this is especially true if they have an audience. Now, I've found if you don't interrupt, they will just keep talking. Maybe they become a little louder in tone of voice, sometimes even throwing in some animation with hand gestures or pacing about the room. Perhaps a tinge of excitement is heard in their voice. The story that they tell, though, inevitably becomes laced with grandiosities as they continue to verbalize their stories. You may have been a private audience, perhaps one too many times to count. However, enough times to notice that the narcissist, in fact, cannot and does not keep track of all of the lies that they tell. They may be recounting some experience that they've talked about before. However, in their talking, this incident or experience isn't fully remembered, so parts of it become fabricated. I find the narcissist tends to do this more so with his or her events, the ones that don't particularly involve anyone that they know but themselves, and perhaps someone that they might know on the periphery, but never anyone close enough to blame for an adverse event if there should be one. There never is self-awareness, expansion, or the hint of self-growth in any of these speeches. Just the same event, refabricated though, to be exciting, emotionally provocative, and usually, always to put them in a good light. Eventually, all of the narcissists will and do trip themselves up. They can't help it, but they would never admit to falling flat on their faces or even being caught in a lie. You may notice, even in work meetings or discussions, when a topic is held over for yet another discussion or to be completed at a later date with yet another meeting, that after the meeting, the narcissist would then leave, only to start a conversation with a coworker about the meeting. Or perhaps leave work and go home to start a conversation about said meeting. Now, the conversation would be to gather everyone else's thoughts and input about the meeting because, truthfully, the narcissist couldn't be bothered to listen to anyone during the meeting. I'm sure someone has encountered this with a coworker or even a spouse that has had the odd Zoom meeting at home. You see, the narcissist expects everything to be about them or to entertain them. Work meetings can be and often are viewed as boring or insignificant to them. Of course, minus the snacks that are sometimes brought to the meeting and maybe the coffee. The more people that the narcissist talks to, the more information they can take in a shorter period of time. This information is then for them to use to remember the basis of the said meeting, and will inevitably bring about increased significance that the narcissist has now placed on themselves. You see, they are now the biggest, the best, and the most significant person to go into the next meeting, because they now own all of the ideas. So I think you may have an idea now as to how this toxic narcissistic person rolls. As this person, the narcissistic person, goes into the next meeting, they're loud, perhaps cutting people off mid-sentence, should they perceive that maybe someone else has something more important to say, and their grandstanding event is getting the importance pulled away from them. They need it placed on them. Sometimes they're up out of their chair, walking and posturing, complaining. The tone of voice gets louder, and the conversation is hijacked. So only the narcissist's view, which of course was originally taken from everyone else that they brokered a conversation with, is the one that is heard. However, if you listen carefully, you might just hear that some of the points in the conversation are a little bit off. Or maybe you hear exactly the words that you had conveyed to the narcissist in conversation. Following the narcissist hijacking the next meeting or the grandstanding event in your home, there never ever is any follow-through, not by the narcissist anyways. And slowly the narcissist shows that there is no real substance, just grandstanding with conversation. A person who cannot be counted on to follow through with anything. And conversely, nobody usually confronts the narcissist with a lie, or that they had just used the words that they themselves told them. Of course, the narcissist will deny that they had lied and will blame somebody else for giving them false information. The narcissist may, in fact, even make this person's work life more difficult. This is where a majority of narcissists get people that will placate them if they need to have ongoing contact. They will fill in the blanks, or they will do the narcissist's work. Other people in the office will become the flying monkeys, agreeing that everything the narcissist said is truth, no matter how skewed, or if it was the same story as last week, only recounted a little bit differently. Others in the office, though, will just ignore the tactics and the antics of the narcissist and try to keep themselves as far away from them as possible, keeping clear of any office toxicity. Oftentimes, this is difficult. Management sees only the good that the narcissist is doing, and reporting the underhanded tactics used to intimidate and belittle in the office are very difficult to report. And when they are, they can be seen as tattling or insignificant reports, even jealousy. So in my experience, the narcissist's need for attention, the need to be the one, the need for admiration, to be heard, to be admired, they will inevitably trip themselves up, as the narcissist will not remember everything of what does not pertain to them, and the story will change. You will hear your words, and perhaps they no longer make sense. With this will come projection, cutting people off, finding brand new focus, people walking away from the narcissist, becoming angry or perhaps pleading. What should maybe be happening is attention from afar, or at arm's length even, and only purposeful at that. These behaviors are ingrained in the narcissist from a very young age. They are part of the fabric of their person and they do not change. Therefore, if you're around the narcissist long enough, you will see some of these cyclical behaviors, responses, and self-preservation techniques. I bet you also see childish behaviors. You will always see how they're not on topic or go off topic in short order, attempting to make themselves heard and believed. They can become overly excitable, angered, and having a hissy fit when one of their views is questioned or pointed out to be wrong. They cannot accept this. They are usually always on guard to combat any of this being seen by others, and will be quick to act. This shows imperfection, insecurity, and inadequacy, all parts of themselves that they absolutely cannot show. This makes them vulnerable, open to hurt, and there is no way they can face this. It is rare that in public a downfall or a trip-up of the narcissist will be seen. However, in more intimate relationships, these can be seen if you are looking or listening for the similarities in the stories that you've heard before. The best thing that you can do for yourself is notice. Take note and smile to yourself that you have indeed noticed this repetition, yet with a twist of new lies, and every time the narcissist tells the story. If you need to keep track of these stories, eventually you will hear some truth. I wouldn't suggest that you point this out though. There would be nothing but backlash for you. So remember, the narcissist cannot handle being shown that they have insecurities, deficiencies, and this is a decision made for them, by them, long ago. So, is the narcissist even aware that as they spin their lies to stories or situations that they didn't quite pay attention to in the first place, are they aware that it perpetually changes as they put more of their energy into this narrative? Probably not. This would be an awareness of a problem that they create for themselves. And in the world of the narcissist, this absolutely cannot happen. I want to thank you for coming here today, for being with me, for joining in this episode. And make sure to stay tuned bi-weekly. New episodes will be launched. But for now, take care, be safe, and find your happy.